So, a massive welcome and good evening to everybody. A little bit of a glitch tonight. I was hoping to go Facebook Live with Dave O'Brien, but listen, these things happen. We couldn't connect our two phones for some reason, and I think Dave is just too fast. I can't keep up with him. But listen, we still have him, and it's great to have him. He's a super busy man. He's a tough man to get sometimes. So it's great to have him. So welcome to everybody who's made the effort to download the Zoom and get on. It's as the fellow said, it's great to see so many people on. So Dave is with me. Dave O'Brien is the main man of the show, and I suppose I'm going to let Dave give his own story. But just from my background, when I was training for the marathon 3 years ago, I went to see Dave, and it was actually his whole motto in life, in that there's always one more step, really was what rang in my ears through those grueling 26.2 miles. And indeed, it was 26.4 miles by the time I got to the finish line. They put an extra bit on for me, Dave. I thought I'd never see the finish line. But again, there's always one more step. And, you know, I know myself and Lee are doing the marathon, and we're doing it actually for Join Our Boys. And it's a trust there in us coming. But, you know, so we're going into the long miles, but it doesn't have to be a marathon. It can be anything. Like a 5K is hard to start off. Anything in life is hard. And that's really why I've asked Dave to come on, because he has a wealth of experience. And he's going to tell you what he's done in life already, which has been absolutely massive, and regardless of age. And I was very, very taken back with Dave's whole motivation for life, for getting on with stuff. And, you know, the days that you feel you don't want or you can't, this man certainly has an answer. There's no doubt about that. So, Dave, I'm going to welcome you on. You have lots here from all over the world listening to you. I know we've thrown you off a bit by not being live, but you've managed all the technical stuff for me. So, Dave, will you just give the people on the call here your background? Because a lot of people wouldn't know who you are, what you've done, and you know, you've done so much, I suppose. So I'm going to let you take the floor.
Yeah, not a bother. There's somebody washing the dishes there. Fair play to them. Hey, listen, thank you, Elaine. Thank you so much. Look, it's a real pleasure and an honour to be on the call, and for people to take time out. It's summertime. The weather is good. You know, to come in and switch into this is taking time out of people's day. So I really appreciate it. And it's great to see that there's so many people from, as you say, from all over the world. And sure, look, let's get started. I suppose, and a lot of people will be obviously runners, and it doesn't matter. You're right, Elaine. Whether you're a marathon runner, whether you're a 10K, you're doing a mile, a half. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't, because I guess the mindset and everything else is pretty much the same. It's just you have to do a little bit more of it if you're doing obviously longer distances and stuff like that. So I don't really come from a running background. I played a lot of soccer as a young boy in Dublin. I did fencing of all things for about 3 years. I wasn't too bad at that. And then a neighbour of mine in 1982 was running this marathon. It went through Finglas. It was the Dublin City Marathon. It was the second time it was run in Dublin. And I went out to see him. It came through Finglas Village. And like any marathon, the support is massive. And when my neighbour ran by at the 10-mile mark, all the locals were cheering him and, come on, Cyril, you can do it. Well, look, I just got caught up with the whole thing. I really did. I just got that energy. I got that excitement. And I made a decision that day that I would do it the following year. For me, there was no thinking about it. I didn't sort of dip my toe, if you like. I grasped it with both hands and said, this is for me. So the following year I did. I went into the race, bought a pair of running shoes, of course, went into the race. Only small problem was that I didn't train at all. I had no training done. So anybody listening, I wouldn't recommend that as a recipe for success. It's pretty much a recipe for disaster. And for me, at about the 14-mile mark, my left knee started to seize, and then I could only drag it. And then my right knee at about 18 miles. And by the time I came down Leeson Street at 26 miles, I was shuffling. I finished it, but what I had done is I'd torn ligaments in both of my knees. I didn't know that then, obviously. I just knew it was extremely painful. So at the time, my brother met me in Stephen's Green, and he was holding me up, trying to get my tracksuit bottom on. It was extremely sore. And my wife, I could see her coming in across the green at me, and she was really upset because she said, look, you know, this is ridiculous. I knew this was going to happen. Like, no training. I mean, you're running 20. What the hell did you think was going to happen? Blah, 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 blah. And she gave it to me, and rightly so. And she was a little bit upset, and she was hugging me. And as I looked over her shoulder at my brother Barry, I did this. I gave a wink. And it was another instant decision. You know, those kind of things in life. I knew that I damaged my knees. I didn't know how bad. But I made the decision, if I could repair them, that I would train for a marathon this time. Train. And run it without injury. Time wasn't an issue. It was just the fact of running a marathon without injury. So the following year, it took me 3 months, by the way, 3 months and 2 weeks to get my knees. Eventually, I was able to go out again gradually. And I did a bit of training. And in 1983, I ran my second marathon, and I ran it without injury. And that was my goal. And so since 1983, I have run somewhere in the region of 600 plus races. Over 60 of those plus are marathons around the world. I've run mountain races, cross country, 10Ks, 5Ks, 20Ks, 25Ks, 10 milers, and you know, everything really, all the distances. And as I said, over 60 marathons. And I'm delighted to say that in that space of time, that is 33 years, guys, and over 600 races in over 33 years from that day, I have never, ever been sick or injured or missed a race due to sickness or injury. And that is not just good luck or good genes. It's good health. And that's where my story begins, I guess. That's what I do. I speak to people all over the world about looking after themselves, about recovery and repair at the cellular level. And helping your body recover and repair is vitally important. So to start, that's my story. I started, as I said, in 82 in Dublin. First marathon, got injured. The second, I ran it fine, and since then over 600 races. The big one, I suppose, Elaine, if you want me to say it, is in 1998, I opened a newspaper, and I had been running a couple of marathons, and it was a Saturday, and I saw this guy, an amputee called Chris Moon from the British Army, had run the Marathon des Sables. I'm sure some of your listeners will know this race very well, a 250-kilometer race in the Sahara Desert, carrying everything on your back to survive. And I looked at this newspaper and I said, if that man can do it with a prosthetic leg, well, then Dave O'Brien can do it. You know, I did that thing again, that instant decision, that grasp with both hands and jump in. And nobody from Ireland had done it, so I decided I would do it. And I did. I went away and I ran the Marathon des Sables in 1998. And great, I had a great race, thankfully. And then I came back 2 years later in 2000, and I did a second one just to prove the first one wasn't a fluke, if you like. And that went extremely well as well. So that was 2 desert races. And then to bring you up to speed, I suppose in 2010, which would have been 10 years later, I saw on the internet a series of races around the world. There were 250-kilometer races. But this time it wasn't one race on its own, isolated. It was 4 in a 38-week period. And I was like a child in a sweet shop. Only 2 men in the world had ever done it. And they were the most famous ultra runners on the planet. And so I decided, you know, that instant decision again, Elaine. I didn't worry, was I too old? Would I die out there? Could I get time off work? No, that didn't come into it. Grasped it with both hands and said, I'm going to do this. And I did. The following year, I ran those 4 deserts. The Atacama Desert in Chile. 12 weeks later, the Gobi Desert in China. 12 weeks later, the Sahara Desert in Egypt. And 5 weeks later, Antarctica. So you're going from plus, I suppose, 40 degrees to minus 30 wind chill. It'll freeze your lungs. And I guess as I was doing those races, I began to understand why only 2 men in the world had ever done it. But so that's kind of my background. I'm not saying this, folks, to make myself out as any different to anybody else, because I certainly am not. I'm just an ordinary bloke, ordinary individual who decided to make some changes in his life, who decided to study my own body, to study health over fitness. They're 2 totally different things, guys. People get really confused with that. and to take steps to ensure that my health continued. I'm 63 years of age now. I was out today around 10 miles in the heat, not a bother. It wasn't anything spectacular. In my bare feet, of course, I don't wear shoes, so running through the fields, and yeah, not a problem. So that's really my background. I think the important thing for most people on the call is 33 years with over 600 races and not a single solitary injury. And I kid you not, that's as true as I'm sitting here. So, Elaine.
Yeah, so just before you go on there, Dave, like, you know, to run at that sort of distance, to put your body, like, that's putting your body through a hell of a lot. And we see this a lot where people get injured. And, like, what, I suppose, you know, when you're training, like, what sort of training you're training? Were you training to very high intensity when you were doing your marathons and the desert marathon runs? Were you training every day?
No, I wasn't. And in fact, for some of you listening, you marathon runners out there, I think some people were quite shocked at the, let's say, the economy of training that I used. I'm a firm believer. Look, this works for me, guys. I'm not saying this is for everybody because everybody is different. I would run, when I was training for the deserts, for example, a 250 kilometer, you would imagine that I was doing huge mileage. I actually wasn't. I was more focusing on my health side, my recovery and my repair, my nutrition, my lifestyle. And I would train about 4 days out of 7 a week. And of those days, the longest run that I would have run in training would have been about 2 hours and 30 minutes, 2.5 hours. And I didn't do that very often. And bearing in mind that my shortest run in the desert, the shortest run, would have been about 4.5 hours in any one day. The longest would have been 26 hours non-stop. That would be the long day. So I never ran anything near what I should have run. As I said, I ran about 50% of what I was going to do. Now, there's a couple of schools of thought on that. I'm not saying people who are training for a marathon should go out on twice a week and run 5 or 6 miles and then expect to do a marathon and do it comfortably. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that for me, in the training those distances, I would put in 4 out of 7 days a week, and I would run, as I said, about 2.5 hours will be my longest run. For marathon training, which is 26.2 miles, we would run a marathon every day. That'd be your shortest run, would be a marathon. Your longest run will be 110 kilometers. So about, 2.5 marathons. So, you know, I can go into specifics on this call in terms of preparation for various distances, like the half marathon, the marathon, the ultra runs, the 100-mile runs, desert running. I can do that, no problem. As I said, everybody's different, but there are some kind of rules which are pretty similar. Like, all marathon runners will know that they will do, they'll do a long run, you know, that they'll always have their Sunday or their Saturday or maybe a weekday, but generally a weekend, they'll do their long run. And that long run is increased gradually over time until they do a distance which is comfortable to them, gives them the confidence that they're going to be able to kill that 26.2 miles. Now, some people, I know people who will actually run 26 miles, which is beyond me. It's a bit like climbing Mount Everest before you climb Mount Everest. I don't believe you have to do that, but that's my opinion. So, but you'll have the average person doing 80 to 20-mile runs on their long runs.
Yeah.
And for me, when you start to do those kind of runs, and when you start a run with consistency, I would ask people to look at how they're fueling their body, Elaine, because this, to me, I would like to get this message across today. I can give you plans, I can give you various programs, if you like, for different events in terms of, you know, your training. But the more, as important, if not more important, is what you physically put into your body, and on your rest days, what you do on your rest days. These are key. I mean, I was picking up guys the age of my children. I was 59 when I completed the Grand Slam and became the oldest man in the world to do that. And I was picking up guys way fitter than I could ever be. I mean, they were training 100-mile runs with backpacks. I wouldn't know what a 100-mile run was if it bit me in the ass. And yet, out there, I was getting these guys to safety. Again, I'm not making a big deal out of it, but they were breaking down. So you've got to ask yourself the question, why? What is all that about? It's about fueling your body to repair. Okay? While most people fuel their body to perform, Dave O'Brien fuels his body to repair. Huge difference. I just mentioned that there was one incident in the Gobi Desert in China where I came across a guy had died. A 31-year-old American had died in a group of mountains we'd gone through. It was 46 degrees. A terrible, sad situation. He lost his life. He went into a coma and he didn't survive. He died 4 days later. And when that happened, everything changed for me in that race in the Gobi. I was doing very well, actually. And I decided the race was over for me as a race. I would finish it, but I would leave no one behind. It was too serious. As I said, they were the age of my kids. And I came across a guy in the final part of the 110-kilometer run. There was 31 kilometers to go, I do believe, and it was we'd already done 70 kilometers. And I was in this huge group of sand dunes. And when I found Hugh, a young man from the British Army, 27 years of age, he was on his hands and knees, and there was nobody around. It was me and him when I came across him. I had him for a couple of hours, and we laughed and cried and shouted and screamed and dragged and pulled, and anyway, got him in at the end. He's an amazing young man. I mean, he's a hero, a real hero, because he took all the pain away from me trying to get him in. And when I did, somebody had a camera, and I use this picture all over the world when I'm speaking. And on it, you can see Hugh. Now, bearing in mind, Hugh was from the British Army, was running 100-mile runs with a backpack, way fitter than I could ever be. And his arm is around my neck and his head is down as we come through the finishing line for the day. And I put that picture up on the big screen. I haven't slept for 27 hours. And I look like I look now. I look okay. And I circle my face with a pointer and a laser beam, and I say, that's health. And then I circle Hugh's head, and I say, that's fitness. And that, my friends, is the difference between fitness and health. It's all got to do with recovery and repair at the cellular level. And that's why I get very upset when I see all this produce, chemical crap being sold and held up by our sports people, and our kids are watching this. They're bags of sugar, the majority of them. I really get upset. There's no need for them. Your insulin levels go all over the place. You get all these insulin spikes. I wouldn't let it near my body. And they were using them in the desert, the gels and the powders and the protein drinks and all this stuff. And it's sad, Sure, they do what they say on the tin. But the problem with them, Elaine, is that they're short-term gain, but long-term detriment to your body. And that's the issue that I have. And people need to be educated into this. So, so I would ask people who are training to just look at what they're, my advice, of course, is everything from water. Of course, water is key. In a marathon, if you get your water wrong, you may finish or you may have to pull out. In the desert, if you get your water wrong, you're dead. So, you've got to be very, very good at managing your water. So for all you runners out there, I would say before your marathon or whatever race you're going into, make sure that your urine is clear. I mean, this is an obvious, you all probably know this, by the way. So I'm preaching.
No, not everybody does. No, not everybody does.
Well, if I was doing a training session with a group and anybody had urine that wasn't clear, I'd send them home.
Okay.
Make sure you flush out when you're thirsty in a race, it's too late, guys.
Yeah,
it's too
heard
late.
that.
Oh no, and sip all the time, even if you don't want water, like what you're doing, Elaine. I love that. Keep that sip going all the time, even if you're not thirsty. I don't care. I'm not saying drink a liter; it'll be swishing up inside you. I'm saying sip it, sip it, sip it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Vitally important. And then, of course, what you put into your body to fuel your body to repair. Don't fuel. I mean, I can fuel anyone's body to perform. Easy peasy. I'll give you one of these things that I spoke about. Woo! You go up. Yeah, you perform. You come down. You go up. You come down. You go up, and you stay down. I'm telling you, I picked these guys, these young men. They'd all charge out ahead of you in the desert, and over day 1, 2, 3, you pick them all off again, every one of them, because they're fueling their body to perform, which is only short term, and it has a detrimental effect. So I would ask you all out there that you've got to look at what you're putting into your body to repair it. So important.
Yeah.
It's really important, Dave, and I totally appreciate where you're coming from. You know, and just on the water intake, Dave. So a lot of us are told, you know, to drink a lot of water, but and also like to have water on your own, especially your training runs. Sometimes it's hard to swallow the water, Dave, when you're out running. Have you any advice?
Yeah, sure. You know, that's a funny thing. It's a like habit and getting your body used to it. What I would say to people is, flip, mine is downstairs, but I got it's a Nike bottle actually, which has a diaphragm in it, and there's no pip you pull out. It's just a little hole you suck on, and actually it's like kind of like a baby's bottle, but it just comes out automatically. It won't, if you turn it upside down, nothing will happen, but if you just put your lips to it and suck, it comes straight out.
Yeah.
But, okay, so you need a narrow, if you have caps you have to open them when you're running, forget all that. Try and have something that you can just suck into it. So, and it's only a matter of getting your body used to doing that. Can I use a little tip I used when I was out running today? It was extremely hot, and I had what I do is I take a gulp of water and I hold it in my mouth as I'm running. Yeah, breathe through my nose, and I held it in my mouth. And what happens is the water mixes with the saliva, and it means that when you swallow it, then you just get this better acceptance inside, rather than sort of it being one bang into your stomach. That mixture, whatever it does, it just the body in the stomach accepts it a whole lot more. I don't know the science behind it, I'm being honest, but I can tell you I've found it a huge benefit. I just leave it in your mouth for a little while. You get a bit of saliva to swallow it down. Yeah. You don't have to, but just for me, I found that good. And keep sipping all the time. Get your body used to that. Go on short runs. I carry bottles with me. I'm used to it. And some of you may not be. I see a lot of, like in the farm today where I was, there was a guy, I was running for, I don't know, about an hour. There was a fellow running for a similar time and he'd no water at all. Now, he might have taken a lot before he went on the run, but that's crazy. An hour, too much. Maybe 20 minutes, okay, but it's too long. So I would advise everyone there to keep sipping all the time. It's perfect.
It's a great tip, Dave. Yeah, I know, but it's a great tip. I've seen a lot of runners not carry water. It does worry me, especially in the heat, and I think it's a serious tip. The other tip I'd ask you, Dave, and a lot of people have asked me this, so if we try and run our long runs in the morning, because the marathon itself, in Dublin Marathon, is the morning, so sometimes it's hard to eat breakfast. So I've seen people run with no breakfast. Now, I personally get up, I take a plant-based protein shake, and it's as a pre-long run. I also take it straight after I have that run, but and I take that about an hour before I go for my run. What do you advise people? Some people eat the night before very late. I can't work off that. Have you any advice for people?
Well, first of all, let's go to your last part of your question there. I'm going to say, do not eat late at night, everybody. Do not eat late at night. When you go to bed and you go to sleep, you might be asleep, but your organs aren't. They're trying to everything is happening in your stomach, your liver, everything is working overtime. They're shoveling like crazy while you're trying to sleep. So your body isn't resting. You need to give your organs that rest. My advice in terms of when you go to bed, before 12 if you can, by the way, every hour before 12 is worth 2 hours after. So try and hit bed before 12. 11 will be a very good time. But if you're going to bed, say at 11, try not to eat 2.5 to 3 hours before you go to sleep. And if you feel hungry and you want to go picking at a press, get a litre of water and get it down you, and that hunger will subside slowly. It's only training yourself to do that, but please do not eat an hour before you go to bed. Not a good idea. And if you think because you're running early in the morning that's going to help, no, it's not. So I wouldn't recommend that. So what do? You use, I know what you take, Elaine, because I take the same. I take a plant-based nutritional drink, and I wouldn't take anything else. I wouldn't let anything else into my system. That's what I take. But for people that want to say what kind of food, perhaps, for a marathon, if you're going to start to run at 8 o'clock, you're going to be up maybe at 6 o'clock. People don't feel like eating at that hour of the morning. It can be an issue. It is good to have something inside you, to be honest. You often hear this one with porridge. A lot of people like porridge. Yeah. I would make, if you do have it, honestly, lads, you want to have it about 2 hours before you run, would be my opinion. And I would make it on water, not on milk.
Yeah.
And a bit of fruit. Fruit is fine. I know you see people on the run near the latter stages taking the banana and so on, because it's a slow release. You see, the thing about nutrition and the body is that you don't want these spikes, this insulin spikes, particularly as a marathon runner. I love this slow release. So you're looking for slow release foods, yeah, and that's so important. And I know that nutritional plant-based you're talking about, Elaine, has a very slow release into the body, which is wonderful because it's plants, because it's just raw food. So there's no chemical imbalance in any way. But that's what you want. You want something to go in and to get that slow release of energy as you're moving. In the desert, I needed that. The quick fixes just didn't work. I saw it all around me. You'd see these young guys from the army or the Marines, and they'd take off, and then you'd come across them on a checkpoint. And then I'd sit down and do my thing, and then they'd be gone. And then I get them at the next checkpoint. But after maybe 8 or 9 hours, it was funny. Then I left before they did because they were getting these spikes, but I wasn't. I was getting my muscle was being fed. I was getting this lovely slow release, and that's when my health kicked in. That's when fueling my body to repair kicked in, rather than fueling it to perform. So I would say to people, if you're running the marathon, particularly a long distance like that, I would say try and get 2 hours before the race. A good plant-based nutrition into you. There's some good ones out there. I mean, Elaine, I'm sure you will advise, and there's some that I take myself. Yeah. I'm very particular in what I take, as you know, and there's only one thing actually that I do take, and there's nothing else. And so that's what I would advise, and definitely about 2 hours before you're going to go running, get that kind of slow release food into you. Yeah?
Yeah.
Stay away. I mean, look, I know people listening are going to say, yeah, sure, Dave, all of that. And I've been using gels for years, and I've been, look, okay, that's fine. You do your own thing. I'm not asking you to. It's just my experience in 33 years of running, in using my body as an experiment, in being healthy as I am today, thank God. It's not a coincidence that I've got that longevity, 33 years out of it, and I don't have an ache or a pain. I've no problem. So that's because it is fueling my body to repair. So, that's what
it's key, Dave, and because we all want to come out of this, we all get the same medal, so we all want to come out with walking and being fit the following day. But we've spoken a bit about nutrition there, and anybody who wants any more specific tips, Dave will certainly work with me. If you want to go through anything, he'd certainly work with me, and I can give you any advice and talk to people about that separately. But Dave, another question that came up today from one of my running buddies was, when she's training hard now and her body's telling her that, and this is about the mindset, and you've spoken to me pretty heavy with this, sometimes I need it. Dave, so somebody had once said to me, 80% of your marathon is in your mind, and she's telling me that her body's telling her she's not able, she's getting tired and to stop. And like that happens, Dave. It can happen in the first 5 miles. It can happen in the last 5 miles. It can happen at any stage in a long run. So, Dave, talk people through that mind games that goes on, and how can we, build a stronger mind. And this works for all walks of life. I know we've had this long-term discussion in lots of things, and we see lots of challenges in life, and you'll bring that to a marathon. So how do you, like Dave, you must have went through serious blocks and roadblocks and bricks when you were doing those grueling desert marathons. Like, how do you overcome that?
Yeah, there's a couple of things, Elaine. One of them is an interesting thing. If you take the marathon distance, by the way, you'll often hear it said that the marathon only starts at 20 miles.
Yeah.
The race starts at 20 miles. I remember in the Gobi Desert, I'd been on my own for 4 or 5 hours. And I remember it was a very windy day, believe it or not, and extremely hot but windy. And whatever look I gave in the horizon, I could see as far as the eye could see, and there was nobody, no people at all. And I stopped and I turned around, I held onto my hat because it had blown off about 10 minutes before. And I turned around and looked behind me, and nobody. And it was just barren for as far as the eye could see. The most beautiful area to be in, but it was barren. And I kept going. I was going. This was the 110 kilometer stage. And I remember I got out of this, it was like a canyon, and I came across this plain, and it was getting hotter and hotter and hotter. And guess what I saw? it was like a mirage. It was a single tree on its own. Funny enough, it was weird, out of nowhere. It was like an oasis. And I remember looking at my water bottle. I had about 4 or 5 gulps left in the water bottle. And I knew I was a little bit in trouble. I was very good at my water rationing. I was really good at it. I mean, I've done enough of it to get it right, but the best can get it wrong. And I was low. I mean, it's about that much, maybe 4 or 5 gulps. And I see this tree on its own. I remember I did a thing that I should not have done, believe it or not, and that's to sit down. Now, you might think that's a good idea to get a little bit of rest, take the sun off you. And it makes sense, doesn't it, that you give your body a chance to recover. I wasn't quite sure where the next checkpoint was. By my calculations, I reckoned it was about 5 kilometers away, but I wasn't 100% sure. And I remember thinking, geez, this is getting a little bit scary. So I sat down anyway under this tree and went, oh. And then I thought, right, I've got to go, and I couldn't get up. And I mean it, Elaine. I said, you've got to get up, Dave. I said, I can't. It's this conversation. You know, this person on your shoulder? Your body is screaming at you. Your organs, you know there's something wrong. You've got to stop this madness. You know, you're just about had it. There doesn't seem to be any light at the end of the tunnel. The easiest, someone will come along and eventually, and you'll get water and they'll help you, and it's at those moments that you have to find a way. You've got to find that extra little bit. And what I decided to do was I stood up and I said, what I'm going to do is, I couldn't think of 5 kilometers because I couldn't do 5 kilometers. I couldn't do 1 kilometer. I couldn't. But what I decided to do was I put one foot, you've often heard me say this, in front of the other. And I would look down at it. And I did. And it was like this, this kind of plodding. And I was trying to just focus my mind on the steps. And then I would pick out somewhere in the sand, like a little wave in the sand or something, and look at it and get to it. So there were tiny little goals. So maybe it was 10 yards away, whatever. And that's how I gradually, I eventually did come to that checkpoint. It was actually about 5 kilometers away with no water at all. I'd none. And that was the only time in the 4 Desert Grand Slam that I was going to be caught out there without any drinking water. So what got me up from that ground to continue was I knew, like, I could be waiting for somebody. They mightn't come for a couple of hours. What if they didn't come? What if I you know, you could die out there. I had to pull myself up and do that one step at a time, that mindset. The visualization for me was huge, Elaine, because I did visualize myself in that 5K checkpoint. In fact, I can tell you, I remember standing up and thinking, when I get there, not if, but when I get there, they will spray my face with a spritzer with cool water, which they do. And I just visualized, I could nearly taste it and smell, and that was going to get me. I'm going to do this. I'm going to get that spray. I can just collapse on the ground, do what you want then, but get that spray. And I was just imagining me coming in and going, yes, I've done it. So I visualized me getting to that checkpoint by doing kind of one step at a time. And there's loads of different tricks you can use, but that, to me, that was one of them. To do that, I just had to get up again. I saw too many people give up. You know, can I tell you, sorry, I don't want to be going on about this, but this is interesting. In the Sahara Desert in Egypt, there was a guy from Ireland, Robert, and he was doing very well. He was actually 7th in the race after 3 days. And this guy was a real ultramarathon, not like me. I mean, I get away with murder, but this guy was seriously good. And when we were on he was on this long stretch, and he got hit badly. He couldn't go on anymore. He had his backpack, and he took his backpack off, and it was a 4-wheel drive. It was a flat part because the 4 wheels can't go into the mountain, but they can go on the flat bits. And he flagged it down, and he told me this. He was in my tent, and he flagged it down, and they slowed down, and he said, I'm done. Now, once you get into that 4-wheel drive with your backpack, you're out of the race. Even if you change your mind, sorry, it's done. And they looked at him and they said, we can't take you because there are 2 lads in it already and they got equipment. But they said, the checkpoint isn't very far away. We'll go there, we'll do a U-turn, and we'll come back and collect you. Oh, Jesus, he said. So he put his backpack on, He said, I can't stand in this heat because it'll kill him. So he started to trudge and trudge. Well, the four-wheel drive didn't come back. He was actually only 3 kilometers from home. He gets in. They give him a spritzer. He takes his backpack off. He gets some nutrition. He starts to feel a little bit better. Long story short, he finishes the race. Now, here's my point. If he had given up, if there was nobody in that four-wheel drive, he was in and his race was over, and he would never forgive himself. He would look back at that race and say, what if?
Yeah. So
you see that mind, he wasn't given a choice. They just drove off. So he had to do another step and another step. So this is all to do with upstairs. You've got to have that in the right place, you know?
Yeah, brilliant, Dave. I think lots of people can, and I know there's a couple of them on the call here, can actually totally understand that. And I think one point I took away from you, and I actually didn't hear that story about the tree before, is your visualization of seeing yourself at the end of the race. And I know with myself and Lee, when we do our long runs, we go out to a local lake after it, just to stand in and just flush your legs out. But it's a cappuccino on the lake, and I visualize that cup of coffee on the lake. Brilliant. And you know, the pain only gets, the pain doesn't get, and I remember hearing you one night saying this, the pain stays the same. It doesn't get any worse. If your pain in your legs are sore, just think of something else, because the pain just stays the same. It never gets any worse. You've got to get your mind off. It's why I just started thinking of the lake, thinking of the cup of coffee. It's going to be all over in a half an hour, be over in 10 minutes, be over in 5 minutes. And you're absolutely right. Visualization is key. And, you know, it's great to hear your story. But, you know, Dave, I'm not going to delay much longer, but there was another question come in as well. And, like, can anybody, and I think you can apply this maybe to just life in general, can anybody run a marathon? Can anybody do anything in life? I mean, I've heard you talk about this, and you're just adamant about whatever you want to do in life, you can, and you've proven that. There's absolutely no doubt about that. So you're walking the walk. But, you know, you have people saying to you, oh, you can't do that, or I'd never be able to do that, or, you know, can anybody run a marathon, or can anybody do anything in life? At any age, might I add.
Well, there was a lady on YouTube, 101 years old. She broke the world record for the 100 meters. Go on YouTube and you'll see her. And they asked her, when did you start running? And she said, at 100. So I'm not taking any prisoners here tonight. And she looked good. And my point is, I'm serious, it's like the 4-minute mile. It couldn't be done, yeah? But as soon as Roger Bannister did it, guess what happened? Every runner in town, well, that's an exaggeration, but many, many people broke the 4-minute mile. Look, there's going to be good days and there's going to be bad days. You're going to go out there and feel shit, like, excuse the language, You're going to get things like that. You keep moving. I mean, unless you have an injury, by the way, and don't be stupid, but I mean, you know, you just run through it, and you will run through it because you know what the final goal is. I think, like, the important thing you ask, the question you ask, is anyone capable of running a marathon? Look, life is a marathon, you know. I think about this. I ran 4 deserts. There were only 4, and no, but seriously, there were only 4. I choose to do them. There are people that have their desert every day, and they don't have a choice. People with, you know, living with dementia, partners dementia, people living with bereavement, people with alcohol problems, people with depression, you know, and these people have to get up out of bed every single day and put one foot. Now, that's what inspires me, and that's what drives me. You know, people talk all the time. I often hear this, Elaine, people saying, you know, if only, they talk about resources. You know, I don't have enough of this, or, you know, if only my boss would pay me more money, or if only my workers would work harder, or if only I won the lotto. It's not about resources. It's about resourcefulness. See, everybody, Elaine, has within them exactly everything they need to achieve what it is they want to achieve. I mean, I guess it's as simple as that. But do we want it enough? Because there's a price to be paid for everything. Make no bones about that. You're going to run a marathon, there is a price to be paid. You've got to put in the work. You've got to have discipline. Yeah. You've got to have fun. Come on, because if you're not having fun, by the way, lads, I mean this, you're in the wrong house. I mean, don't take yourself too seriously. But all these things, everybody is capable of achieving amazing things in their life. I think, would it be, Elaine, that we live in a world where people, you know, you get knocked quite a lot. And I don't think it's a problem that you get knocked. and you go down. I think it's a problem when you stay down.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to me to say that. I'm not trying to be blasé. Sometimes it's difficult because you get knocked down so much, and so many times you say, look, I'm done. I just can't get up again. But there is always one more step. And if you want it bad enough and you know what your why is, you will get up and you will make it happen. And I think, yes. I think I would nearly say to you, like, kind of fall in love with the struggle. Do you know what I mean? Between your desire, you know, to what you're looking for and your obstacles. You know, that kind of way. It's like kind of fall in love with the process. And I remember somebody saying that once to me, you know, fall in love with the struggle between your desire and your obstacle, and then it'll work, it'll happen. So everybody, in my opinion, is incredible. All you people out there, I mean, people excite me. They just, boom, it's fantastic. It's just, sometimes we have to reach inside, boom, and pull it out. But it's within all of us to run a marathon. It's within all of us to achieve greatness in whatever we need to do. You know, it doesn't have to be running across deserts. It can be anything. I mean, my goal as a young boy growing up, when my dad left and I wanted to look after my mom. There were 5 kids, me and 4 of my siblings. My goal, the one goal I had, was that I didn't like school. I didn't want school. I wanted to leave school. I wanted to go out and work and bring back a wage packet. And every single day that was on my mind. You know something? I remember the day as if it was yesterday. Coming home to my mom. I worked for a company in Dublin. I got my first job with a cloth cleaning machine. I was only the boy cleaning stuff and learning. And I came home with a brown envelope, sealed, my name on it. I couldn't believe it. My name was on it. And it was maybe £30. I can't remember what it was, or less. And I handed it to my mom. That was I would have gone through a brick wall to make that happen. And it did happen. So that was a milestone in my life. And so set all these little goals that are personal to you, that means something to you, and just go with it. And do not worry about the naysayers, guys. They're out there. They're, what did somebody call them once? There's a great name. I can't remember. But anyway, what's that saying? People who say it can't be done shouldn't be interrupt the people who are doing it. Yeah,
absolutely, Dave. And Dave, I think that's phenomenal advice, and you know, I'd carry that with me tomorrow in my run. And to me, it's amazing. I think you offer so much, and you just say it as it is. And I think for anybody here on the call, they've got absolutely amazing. I think everybody would agree with me. Just amazing experience, amazing motivation, inspiration, everything. But they've got Dave O'Brien as he is. And Dave, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on. It means an awful lot to me, because I've long miles to put ahead, and I don't find it easy. And but like that, and when it's done, the feeling you get is great. And I'm thinking of those 3 boys and their mammy that has to put one foot in front of her foot every single day, knowing that she has a devastating future in front of her, but she still keeps going because she believes in hope. And she's embracing her obstacles. So that drives me every day as well. But from your point of view, Dave, I appreciate what you've given us tonight. It's been absolutely amazing food for thought. I thank everybody for logging on. Dave, thank you. This is going to be recorded, and I'm going to be sending it out to lots of people, and anybody on here, we can send you on the recording. Just get in touch with the person that invited you on, and we'll get it out there. Dave, an absolutely massive thanks to you. For now, so long, farewell. But I will be on, Dave and me are on the phone quite regularly. We work together. It's fantastic. I only met Dave just over 2 years ago, and we've become absolutely great buddies. And again, I think it's because we just embrace obstacles in life and just move it on. So listen, Dave, a big bulla bus, and an absolute massive thanks to you and to everybody here for logging on, and I'll talk to you later on. Thanks a million, guys.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks, Dave. Bye.